walk in a wilderness with trees dominating overhead. I walk on a trail on which I am led. I hear the birds singing loud and clear, but yet they stay covered and watch us with fear. I breathe the air so fresh and clean and admire all that I have seen.
An opportunity to explore and observe a natural environment is a new and fascinating addition to the curriculum of the St. Paul Public School system. The Belwin Outdoor Educational Laboratory is a cooperative educational program of the Belwin Foundation and the St. Paul Public Schools. Belwin's rugged landscape is composed of 320 acres of natural environment located near the St. Croix River Valley. The area contains over 11 miles of winding trails which lead observers to a prairie savanna, a glacial drift area, oak forests, a woodland pothole, a cattail marsh, beaver areas, and numerous other ecosystems which are the heart of this unique educational experiment. Thousands of elementary and secondary school children from St. Paul's public, private, and parochial schools visit Belwin each year. The basic objective of this outdoor program is to preserve natural ecosystems for educational, cultural, and scientific benefits. Science, math, art, ecology, music, and many other areas of the educational spectrum are associated with the trip to Belwin. Belwin is designated as a natural area and accordingly represents a unique form of land use. Therefore, all programs are controlled on this private land site so that proper ecological balance is maintained. Schools participating in the program are allocated a block of time based on enrollment, with each visit by the student occupying a full day. Subsequent visits are scheduled so they occur at different seasons of the year. While at the laboratory, the teacher is the chief educator, supported by a naturalist director, an environmental director, trained teacher aides, and trail aides. The trail aides are volunteers, homemakers, and businessmen who attend workshops and training sessions and then contribute a day or more each week as assistants to teachers and students. Belwin's volunteer trail aides are inspired by their work as well as by their environment.
I remember the morning that we saw the fox run across the prairie. I'm sure that I was hollering and screaming just as loud as they were.
It's very exciting to see things through the eyes of children. When we start out on a trail hike, I like to feel that we are going out on an adventure together, that I am undoubtedly going to learn as much from them as they are going to learn from me. But seeing things through the eyes of children adds a dimension that I'd never get walking by myself alone. I remember one day when we found a beetle. This was kind of a common, ordinary beetle, but it was lying in the sun, and it had an iridescent blue, deep blue color. We stood and looked at that beetle for 5 minutes before we went on our way again. I never particularly thought about beetles before, but seeing it through the eyes of those children made me appreciate it more than I ever had before.
Usually the kids were game to go out regardless of the weather, and we hiked in the rain, and we've hiked in the snow, and we've hiked in the wind-chilled 40 below temperature, and they've all come back and complained, but we warm up at the fireplace and
just really have a lot of fun.
Sometimes I think the children believe we're like a zoo, because one of the first questions that we are often asked is, where are the animals? Sometimes we can go through all the trails and not see a single animal, and this may be disappointing to the children, but it does point out one thing to them. We are interested in all of outdoors here. The trees, the mushrooms, the lichen, the animals, if we see them. It's a concept of all outdoors rather than just one phase of it.
There was an article about Antarctica, and there was a picture of a snow lice or snow mites, and they aren't very, very big. They're just little tiny pinhead size. But the next time it snowed, we were walking down through the Cattail Marsh area, and lo and behold, it looked like soot on the snow. But when we got right down on our hands and knees and looked at the snow, you could see these little mites hopping in the snow. And it wasn't real cold. It was probably about 30 degrees. But I thought, gee whiz, he really knew that there was such a thing as snow lice, and I was really surprised.
Belwin's Corps of Young Teacher Aides has been an invaluable asset to the program. Their enthusiasm has helped make the program an enjoyable educational experience for many children.
As a teacher aide, my job mostly deals with taking children out on the trails in the morning for about 2 hours, usually a group of about 12 to 10 students. And we walk trails, and I spend most of my time pointing out different types of plants, animals, looking for animal tracks, animal signs that animals have been through the area. Just getting the children to see the things that are outside in nature. Sometimes I won't dwell so much on specific things, but spend my time more dealing with the general areas of nature, prairies and forests, and how they differ, or just the difference between the outdoor areas and maybe a city. I think the main benefit of children, that I hope children get out of the program, is that they can get out of the city and see what the country is like, or what nature can be like, what a prairie is like, what a forest looks like, or what a savanna looks like. And see how the advantages maybe it has over a city, and that they can, it's areas that are becoming scarce nowadays, and a truly natural area, and hope that they can come to appreciate them more, so that these areas can be saved in the future, and that they can really come to love them and understand what's outside in nature. For myself, I think I really enjoy, being out here, being outside, and getting the chance to be outside every day and to see these things. I've learned a lot about the outdoors, and I've come to learn these things. I hope the children learn that the outdoors is beautiful, and I want to save it, and it's what I hope to see happens to the land, and man quits turning it into kind of a wasteland of tar and steel, and land becomes more of a nature area of trees and grasses and flowers and so on.
I feel that my main job here is teaching outdoor education, But what we're trying to do also is not only teach with the outdoors, but using the outdoors and combining it into history and science and poetry and English and music and all sorts of different types of things that are related with school. Also, I'd like to stress the point of waking people up. Like when the students come out, they're not used to looking past their noses. Walking down the city streets, all you do is you see your street. You see cars once in a while. But out here, I like to say, look at the trees and look at the sky and watch the birds. And if you hear a sound, hear it, then erase it, look into something else. And I use nature into a lot of things. We use the trees as dendrochronology, and we use the glacial drift as going back into history and glaciers. And I use the trails a lot of times as a place to sing. It's sort of fun, I like it. But it's a place also to be observant of nature, of looking outside and seeing the rabbit tracks and the fox, and today I even saw a skunk. And it's just sort of fun as to seeing what kind of kids are aware of things. And even surprisingly that when the kids aren't aware of things, I'm really pleased with myself if I can have one student write back to me and say, I enjoyed this day and I learned something. Just one little thing and one student out of a whole group is enough to make my day. And I feel that's what I'm here for, is to give something of what I know to somebody else.
The land at Belwin was made available by Mr. Charles Bell, recently retired board chairman of General Mills, and his family. Mr. Bell had been looking for a project of this kind for his property.
About 5 years ago, my wife, my daughter, and myself found ourselves in a unique position of owning a substantial block of property in the Afton Valley Creek area, which had a good many unique features. A piece of property 22 minutes from the major metropolitan area. A piece of property that had tremendous variety of ecological systems within a very short distance of each other. And one that we felt must be preserved in its entirety and in its natural state to avoid the possibility that the developers could come in and break it up and the community would lose the opportunity of preserving it. Our problem at that time was that we had concluded that the best use that we thought for the property would be in connection with young people. But we didn't really know how that could be properly implemented. We had been looking around, we had been talking with university people, with a number of people involved in nature centers, and it wasn't until the summer of 1970 that we had called to our attention an individual by the name of Rod Fry, who was part of the St. Paul Public School Systems and who was out looking for a piece of property for use as an outdoor classroom for the St. Paul Public Schools. After several hours of conversation, we realized that we had finally found what we thought was the most exciting program that could be used for the property that we had. Another difference in the Belwin philosophy is that the property had to be preserved in a natural state for as long into the future as we could see, hopefully forever. And to accomplish this, the schools agreed to a restricted use concept. No public use of the facility, no recreation, no picnicking, no camping, in order that the ecology, the various ecologies that were available could be not only preserved in their present state, but could be properly managed and improved.
Belwin's naturalist director, Rod Fry, believes that the restricted use concept will assure similar opportunities for many future generations of school children.
One of the most fascinating things about Belwin Outdoor Education Laboratory has been the acceptance of the classroom teacher and being able to go ahead and enjoy some experiences in the outdoors that normally wouldn't be a resigned part of his or her day with their students. The students see the teacher in a different light, and the teacher sees the student in a different light. They find out that these are individuals that can come alive in the outdoors. And sure, they do this in the classroom too, but this takes on an entirely different significance. I would hope that the fascination that Belwin offers for a classroom teacher in the future would be that they would use this as facilitators, that they could go ahead and facilitate a better understanding of the great heritage that we have. And as they involve themselves more in the ecosystems of Belwin and the reason why it's here, they could become a good model, a better model for their students and for the members of their family. The biggest problem I think we have with Belwin is to overuse some of the areas, to so completely devastate by just bodies alone. We constantly have to be on guard that the teacher, the student, is aware that this is priceless heritage that we must protect. But in protecting Belwin, you can't be a mothballer. That is, you can't go ahead and prevent things from going on. We're going to see more action in the out of doors. For example, during the vacation periods, students and their teachers will be coming to Belwin on 2 and 3 days of concentrated study to work in areas of art, music, history, philosophy. And this way, the 17 days that have been set aside for vacation periods in the normal school year would be utilized in a spot that is entirely different from what the students have experienced before. Here would be a formal, informal classroom experience where there was a give and take, an understanding, an opportunity to get to know one another better and to be able to operate in the outdoors. Probably the most interesting thing that we've seen in the benefit of outdoor laboratory experience has been students dealing with isolation, with quiet, with solitude, commodities that you and I perhaps have taken for granted, but the student is beginning to know less and less about this. And so Belwin offers this type of an avenue, this type of an escape.
Students experience a variety of feelings about time spent at Belwin.
There was a long trail, and then there was a wood surrounding. You looked over it onto a big pond where there looked like stacks of hay. And our guide said that we would probably see some beavers. We looked for about 20 minutes. We saw no beavers, though. It was very interesting because it looked kind of like a jungle. There were vines, and the haystacks were really grass, the swamp grass that the beavers made out of mud and grass, the homes of the beavers.
The fire lookout tower was my favorite thing at Belwin. Our guide told us to go up but be very careful, so we went up, and it was very interesting. We saw birds, and we could see 3 or 4 miles away, and it was really fun. Some of us saw a deer, and we could see squirrels running across the paths and see how a lot of the paths went through Belwin.
I think Belwin is the most beautiful place in the world because there's a feeling inside of you that nature is surrounding you. It's not like the city smog and the pollution around that you find in the city. Even in suburbs, there are certain things that annoy you, such as sound, noise, but at Belwin, all you hear is the birds and the pines whistling and the wind. I think there should be more nature centers around the world like this.
Well, not only the trails and the things that you can see outside, but the things that you can see in the main building are good too. You know, like you can see the owls and beavers, stuffed things, you know, and they even show scenes. And, you know, you really learn a lot inside as much as you would learn outside, but it's just only scenes, you know, and writing, but you still can learn a lot.
Another one of my favorite things about Belwin was the Canadian geese. They had nests that the guides at Belwin had made. They were sort of like boxes standing out of the water. And so foxes and animals like that couldn't get at them except for in the winter, and well, they weren't there in the winter, of course. But it was really interesting. We could see them sitting on the eggs, and once in a while they'd jump off of the nest and walk around and just check to see if there were any predators or anything like that there.
At Heron Pool, we saw a heron, and there were some little turtles, and the heron pool is supposed to be pretty deep, not mostly in water, but mostly in mud.
When I grow up, I hope to be a guide at Belwin. Some of the guides there worked as volunteers, and they'd work all day there. It'd be a very fun job to be around nature almost all day.
It smells really nice in the pine forest, and there's just like a blanket of pine needles on the floor beneath your feet, and it sounds just like you're walking across the living room floor in your bedroom slippers. It's so soft and everything.
Listen to the silence blanketing the trees, enveloping everything with its thick folds. Hear the bird calling, it lingers in the air. Hear the wind sighing, then whistling through the trees. The fall of raindrops as they bathe the grass below. The snap of a twig from a startled deer. Everywhere a peaceful stillness reigns over all. Tiny sounds of silence. If you listen, you will hear them.